Very interesting, actually, day. I hope you're enjoying the past couple of days so far. You have benefited as you wanted to. So we have a very interesting panel today. It's about the best practices for your career page and followers ecosystem. And I have three great panelists. I'll be introducing them. Please hold your applause until they're all on stage. And then we'll be having probably 30 minutes of a discussion with them. And hopefully we'll leave it to the floor to have a bit of a Q&A. So is that fine? Cool, great. So please welcome Lopa Gore from BP. And please welcome George Honiball from Neotel. And please welcome Paul Bowles from Thales Group. Just a second. All right, great. Thank you. Just a bit, take my place. So guys, I'll just leave it to you. You'll need to debrief yourself a little bit to the audience. What do you do? And one LinkedIn tradition that we usually do internally is mention something that is not on your LinkedIn profile. So we'll start with Lopa.
Hi everyone, my name's Lopa. I work for BP. I'm the Global Employer Brand Lead. And in the last few years, my key responsibility has been to lead the digital strategy for talent attraction. And that involves things like the careers website and of course social media and LinkedIn. I was trying to think of something that would be interesting, but I'll save that for Paul. Most of you probably won't know from my LinkedIn profile that I'm a big Manchester United fan, and I travel to Old Trafford quite a lot, so that's good. Good woohoos there.
You're omitting that, Lopa?
Okay, we'll move on to George now, I think.
Go there, yeah. Hi, good evening, afternoon, everybody. My name is George Honiball. I'm the Senior Manager of Talent for a company called Neotel in South Africa. It's a telecommunications company, fiber optic network, the second largest fixed line operator in South Africa at the moment. I'm the Senior Manager of Talent, so I look after talent acquisition or recruitment, learning, and then a number of other responsibilities as well. You can check my LinkedIn profile if you want to see what else I do. I worked previously at Deloitte as a management consultant, and also I worked for 4 years for KPMG here in London a while ago. So London's sort of my second hometown. And I'm also an industrial and organizational psychologist. Something obviously that's not reflected on my LinkedIn profile is the number of Twitter followers that I've got. So
Okay.
I've got 75,000 Twitter followers, so
Good.
I'm quite active on Twitter. Yeah.
Thank you.
Hello, everybody. My name's Paul Bowles. I work for a company called Thales, which some of you may have heard of. Some of you may have thought it was called Thales, in fact, as you saw the word on the screen. Yeah, I've been working for Thales for probably about 17 years now, and I think I've got the best job in the company. So I'm in charge of leading our resourcing activity across the 56 countries and 6 markets that we're current in.
Wait.
Something which maybe isn't on my LinkedIn profile is I really, really enjoy food. So you might be able to tell that by looking at me that I enjoy it, but I also enjoy cooking it as well. So I've got my own blog, shameless bit of advertising, www.cooklikejamie.wordpress.com. Come on.
That's an interesting one. Cool. Thank you, guys. So we'll start right off, in fact, so we don't lose much time. I'll start probably with Lopa. Ladies first, of course. So you've been on LinkedIn for some time now. What is BP doing to make sure that they're successful on LinkedIn?
So we've been using LinkedIn since 2011, and BP have a really strong partnership with LinkedIn. I would say it's one of our primary channels for sourcing and attracting our candidates. There's a couple of things that I would say that has helped us enjoy some success in the last few years. The first thing I would say is the balance between direct sourcing and managing our employer brand. So the LinkedIn products that we use are both recruiter-led as well as managing our employer brand. And I think that's really important. So year on year, when we're renewing our contract, we're really looking at what do we need to change, flex, to make sure that we've got the right balance. And I think that is really important to think about. I think the second thing is, in the last few years, we've really looked at how we manage our brand on LinkedIn and our other social media channels. And part of that has been really growing our follower base, and I know that's what we're really talking about today. And that's been really important for us to think about, because managing our follower base really well helps us, regardless of hiring peaks and troughs, regardless of our hiring demands. It helps us continue in a long-term way, rather than just looking at our talent attraction from a very short-term level. And the third thing I would say is internal engagement. So we've got over 80,000 employees across 80 countries. 63,000 or so of those are on LinkedIn. But it is about helping educate them in terms of what we're doing on LinkedIn, how they can support, how they can manage their own profile. And it is a big job, because there's very, very different views, very, very different perspectives, and very different levels of knowledge about LinkedIn and our other social media channels. And that's really a big task for us moving forward. Anyway, so those are the three main things. The other piece in terms of our success is really our partnership with the LinkedIn team. So we have very regular communication with our team, and they're sitting here in the audience to support us. And we have bi-monthly meetings with them. We have quarterly business reviews with the rest of our segment leads and the rest of the business. We look at insight reports with our LinkedIn team to really look at what we can do and change differently. And I think that partnership is really critical to that success.
Cool, thank you. So moving to George. So Neotel, South Africa, an emerging market. What made you really take the decision to move on and go on LinkedIn, and how is it so far supporting your resourcing needs?
Very good question. So basically what we had in South Africa, we were relying a lot at that stage in Neotel on using recruitment agencies. And we were spending, I can't disclose the exact amounts, but it was very, very high amounts of money. The companies were sort of charging between 10 and 18% of the people's annual salary. So we had a huge budget that was being spent on it. So we started looking at how much our monthly subscription would be with LinkedIn. Something important that we also factored in, although South Africa is an emerging market, the type of company we had, a lot of our existing employees were already on LinkedIn as well. Mm-hmm. So over 80% of our employees were already using LinkedIn quite actively, and that sort of helped us to introduce it. We were also using other agencies that had similar sort of job boards, but they were very specific to South Africa. So after 3 months of using LinkedIn in conjunction with the other job boards, the responses we had to LinkedIn were just phenomenal. And within 2 to 3 months, we'd cut our reliance on agencies by over 50%. And the saving for us was significant. So we really saw an immediate return on investment, and we actually stopped our subscription to the other job board companies, and we've been using LinkedIn exclusively ever since. So that's worked very well for us. And then obviously also the ability for us to approach passive candidates. Because obviously being a technology company, we didn't necessarily want to have people that were looking aggressively for work. Mm-hmm. Their performance wasn't necessarily that great. So we were able to, using LinkedIn, approach the passive candidates and just bring them in casually initially for a discussion. And then obviously over a matter of weeks and months, we built up a more formal relationship with them, which sort of ended up often in them eventually joining the company as well.
Cool. So Thales.
Yes.
So for me, and probably for most of the people out there, Thales is known as a security and defense company. And it's a fairly conservative industry, let's be fair about it. Like, not every security and defense company wants to be public, social media, and so on and so forth. Why have you decided to start presence on social media channels, and most importantly on LinkedIn?
It's a good question, Ala. I might challenge a little bit. So I think, as opposed to maybe being known in defense and security, I think our challenge is a little greater in some places. We're not known at all in some spaces. So I think some of the prerogatives which made us look at this, the first thing is, as an organization, we're growing. So it's really nice to work for an organization that's growing. It gets you the ability to do some quite good stuff. So traditionally, as you said, we have been in defense and security, but we're getting a lot of growth now in transportation systems. Over 5 billion journeys a year we protect with our technology in terms of rail signaling. We're also growing in in-flight entertainment systems. So those of you that might have flown here, probably one of our systems you might have watched on the way here. The second thing which really became a prerogative for us to look at doing things a bit differently is we don't benefit from a great B2C brand. It was really interesting. I don't know, most of you probably saw the Unilever presentation yesterday. Fabulous stories in there, fabulous consumer brands. So I think as an employer, some of that, if you say Unilever and some of the brands attached to that, people know something about that. They've got a feeling what it means, whereas Thales, a lot of people don't know what it means, so we had to put some meaning towards that. And I think the third reason for us to take a look at this is that social media has actually proved to be great value as well. So when we haven't got a great B2C, a great marketing budget as we're not B2C, social media has really let us get the best value for our investment. So we're really trying to make an impact quite quickly, trying to tell people who we are and what we do, so people can decide quite quickly whether we're a career destination of choice or not. And I heard someone say a picture paints 1,000 words and a video paints 1,000,000 words. So I just want to very quickly tell you the type of organisation that we are and what we use to try and get this information across to people quite quickly.
Cool. Can we roll the video, please?
So that's had some quite big impact for us on social media. That's who we are, that's what we do. And we don't make toasters, as you might have gathered there. We do the complex stuff, we do the really difficult stuff, and we do the important stuff. So that's
quite
why.
Interesting video, honestly. It's probably every and each one of us is touched by Thales, and we are another on daily basis. We're not aware of that, so good to know that. So Lopa, nearly 1.2 million followers on LinkedIn. Wow. That's impressive, to be very frank. And when we think of that, how did you manage to build a strong and relevant follower base on LinkedIn? Yeah. How was that possible?
And it is a big achievement for us. We passed 1 million followers in May, and we were one of only 14 companies at the time to get to 1 million followers. So we were really, really pleased with that achievement. And we haven't taken that for granted at all. It was quite a journey to get there in terms of building our follower base. And there are a couple of big things that we kind of implemented to help us get there. The first thing is we partnered with our comms team and our social media, central social media team, to start posting content onto our company page. And we started that back in 2013, and I could see the spike grow as soon as we started that partnership. And they really helped because they were obviously a source of content. They were there to support us. A lot of the processes that we had to go through to approve content, because at the time we were still a little bit conservative in terms of posting our content, I say. So they were really helpful in helping us push that forward. So I think the partnership with the comms team really helped start to drive that. The second piece is really just about promoting our company page. So we did that through our media products, through LinkedIn, so sponsored content, our advertising tools, our careers pages. We also promoted our company page on our careers website and our other social media channels, which is, free, easy channels to use. And we looked at our own people. So we have a journey to get all of our employees to be social media ambassadors. That's going to take quite some time. But we do have some really keen people within our company already who are really ready and willing to promote and share content to help promote BP and our company page. So people like Stacey Zeller in the US, a big shout out to her, and Ollie Erpy, who's in the audience, sharing and promoting our content really helps drive that too. The third piece is choosing the right type of content. So it's not just about jobs. We don't just post jobs. We do promote opening of graduate programs and more recently our Future Leaders program when it opened too. But it's also about promoting recruiter tips. It's about promoting stories about our employer brand, authentic stories about working at BP that really help engage people and help extend that reach globally, and that's really important for us because we are a global organisation and we need to reach some really niche skills and different types of audience groups. So having a varied content strategy is really, really important, but also how you present that content is really important. So video, absolutely, but even some of our imagery, and I would encourage you all to follow BP so you can see yourself, because I wasn't allowed to show it on screen. But there's lots and lots of varied imagery that we use that you wouldn't actually put together with BP. So our logo not being on it, you wouldn't know that is a BP social media post at all. So it's important to think about how you can really catch someone's eye, even with headlines within the imagery. How can you really pose a question to an inquiring mind and get them connected to you and engage them to follow you and your company? And we do have a social media content manager in our team now, which we didn't have previously. So we've got Liz Walker, who's also in the audience, who manages all our social media content for our employer brand and for talent attraction. And that's also made a difference. It's really helped us hone in on our content strategy to post out to our followers.
Great. Very informative, in fact. You answered even a question I wanted to ask about, like, what type of content, but you already answered that, which is great. George, so generally speaking, companies join LinkedIn with a certain set of objectives. Once they join and, like, going down the road, I believe objectives do change and evolve. How did that actually work out with you as Neotel? I know for a fact you've done a great job so far as Neotel on LinkedIn. So what happened on that front?
So apparently it's not good to start a presentation with a graph. So you've met me and I've answered one question already. So if I can put a graph up on the screen, please.
Sure.
So this is what we've managed to accomplish from a brand engagement perspective. I wish I'd bought shares personally. So we started basically using LinkedIn from April 2014, and you can see immediately when we started using LinkedIn Recruiter, our brand engagement up to that stage had been very static and stable, hadn't really changed dramatically. We saw a huge response when we first started using LinkedIn Recruiter, and literally the growth has been exponential. I think because of what we've been doing as a company, very groundbreaking, very innovative. I think we've been working very closely with our marketing team, posting a lot of fresh content. Something that Lopa said earlier, very important, is to use multiple social media platforms. And what we've basically been able to accomplish, believe it or not, we have grown by about 15% per month. So on average, around 3,000 new followers per month. And I thought by sort of February, March, when we got to 50,000 brand engagement, that we reached a plateau, because I thought there's no ways that this ridiculous growth can continue. And as you can see, it's sort of managed to shift into second gear. So obviously there are a lot of other factors involved in it. So I've gone into it. I've actually published an article on LinkedIn. So you're welcome to go to my profile and just read. I go into it in more detail. Obviously time is limited over here. So I think another just very quick initiative that we did, instead of having a central email that all people applied for jobs through LinkedIn to, we had a jobs@neotel.co.za. And we just found we weren't being able to get it. So we routed it through to our various HR business partners. They were able to disseminate the information far quicker to the recruiting managers. And it just sped up the process. And it's often these tiny little things at the coalface that have a significant impact on the candidate's experience as well. Because I think often the candidates are left hanging. We're not communicating often enough to them. Obviously cutting back on being able to cut back on using newspapers and agencies because of the success that LinkedIn was able to give us. So those are the types of changes we were able to introduce over time. And it's been a really wonderful 18 months, and we've seen wonderful return on investment.
Great. So, Paul, actually, so you've mentioned actually, and we've seen the video, you're operating in different business lines. How do you get people to know about those untraditional business lines that you're working in? And how do you address it differently? What are you doing as common things versus different things, probably addressing different markets out there, taking into consideration that Thales as well is operating globally?
Yeah, I think it's a good question, and probably it's a challenge which I think a lot of global companies share. How do you take the desire to have something common and represent that across different geographies where some things are different? So we've addressed it in the way of looking at our brand, first of all, and saying, okay, well, what is the same? What is authentic for people that want to join the country? Join the company? Is there anything that's similar across people through the world? So something we found that's similar is the people that want to join us are people that have got a real passion for technology. People that have got a passion for planes, for trains, for security, for defense products, and also for space. So that's common, no matter where we employ people. What's different, I think, is when we go across the different geographies, where the opportunities are sometimes different, when our maturities in the markets are different, is what we turn the volume up on. So I'll give you an example. In California, in Irvine, which is quite near Disneyland, in fact, there we have our Center of Excellence for in-flight entertainment systems. So the brand that we have starts off with the strapline Together We, and we've adapted that for that market there to talk about together we bring the stars to 35,000 feet. That's authentic. We have real jobs in in-flight entertainment, and you know that's what we do. We produce in-flight entertainment systems there, and the graphic we change. So the brand's the same, but we adapt it for that market. Similarly, when we're talking about the brand and how we appeal to people in Qatar, it's very much about infrastructure building. So there we present ourselves as together we build the railways of tomorrow. So again, you know, there's some commonality with the brand. We've got graphic guidelines, but we twist it depending on the market where we are. So that's one thing that we do. The other thing that we do is, again, I like Lopa's point about authenticity in brand. And one of the best ways that we find to get the authenticity is to let our people speak. So as part of the brand, we obviously lead with technology, because that's what brings people to us. But we've also developed a video selfie campaign. So with this campaign that we launched earlier on this year, a very simple tool that all of our employees can use via their mobile phone, via a tablet, via a computer, via any device. And we've asked them to say, we're launching a new employer brand. This is it. So it was really good in terms of engagement. But we've said to them, we would like to know your story. So tell us a little bit about why you still work for this company. What is it you like about this company? What keeps you here? And the challenging thing was you have to do this within 1 minute. So we had loads of entries from all our countries all over the world to tell us what people liked about working in this company. And that was very good. So then we have a whole load of authentic employee videos which give people, anyone thinking of joining us, they can see exactly what the type of people they're going to be working with and exactly what the office environment's going to be like. We just closed the competition and we gave a really good prize for the winner. So the winner, we decided to say, you can go to any of our Thales sites anywhere in the world. So a pretty cool prize. And then you can go there, go into the office and experience what it's like to work there for a few days. and it was brilliant. And we just had our first winner went to Singapore from the UK. And while she was going, she tweeted along the way. She gave loads of extra content, loads of extra video information. And so you really get to experience her story. So that, I think, has been the way that we've actually addressed the other markets, is by adapting the brand, keeping some things common, but also getting our people to speak as to what it is to be like to work in our company.
Great, thank you. Lopa, again, actually, so going back to the followers that you had, 1 million spread across the whole globe. How are you leveraging those followers to achieve your recruitment objectives at the end of the day?
So there's two ways we leverage our followers. There's one which is more so the short-term tactical needs of recruitment for now, and then there's the second one about helping us manage our employer brand. If I look at the first one, so that's helping our recruitment teams recruit for today, we know that followers are a much more engaged pool of potential candidates. So our average in-mail acceptance from followers is around 47.9%, and I think the average LinkedIn average is 26.7%. So don't correct me if I'm wrong, but so the in-mail acceptance is far greater than the average. We also receive a lot of applications from our followers, so around 24,000 applications last year came from our followers, but it's not just about the quantity. Obviously, everyone in the audience would be thinking about quality here, and we have hired well over 1,100 of those in a year period, which is quite a lot. And that's people who were followers first and went through the whole cycle of engaging with our content, looking at some of our jobs, looking at some of our careers pages, and then actually applying for a job. So they didn't join us and then become followers. So that's a big thing for us. So there is some connection with followers and recruiting for today. The other piece is they absolutely support us with managing our employer brand. So we've got well over 1 million followers. They're our brand ambassadors too. They can share that content. They can like that content. The reach globally is far greater with having those followers to share that content with. So they're really helping us because we do recruit in some real pockets across the globe that where there is a real shortage of that talent, and our competitors, and even in the engineering space, it's quite tight talent pool to dip into. So those followers are really critical to helping us share that content more widely. And the other piece is that we can target some of that content. So I mentioned our Future Leaders program earlier, and we shared the opening of applications for our Future Leaders program. But we were also able to target content directly to some specific target audience groups. So we posted some content in German about the Future Leaders program, which had really good data points back in terms of we increased some of our followers, we had people click through to apply, we had people looking at our careers pages, just because we retargeted that content to a very specific audience group. So I think that's really important that we can target that content too. And we also leverage our followers to learn more about our audience, gain insights about what our audience are doing, how they're behaving, how their preferences are changing. So we ran an insight report with our LinkedIn team about our 1 million followers, not only their demographics, but actually what are their perceptions of BP, what are their perceptions of what's a good company to work for, because this pool are reflective of our wider audience group. So it's important to learn from them. And also learn just generally from their commenting and their engagement. So we receive lots of positive comments on some of our posts, and of course we receive some negative comments, but it's great to see that, to listen, to learn, to understand what works well in local markets, not just global content that's posted out to all, but localize that too.
Great, cool. So we have 6 minutes before we leave it to the floor. Let's please make sure we give the opportunity for some of the people if they want to ask a question. Quickly, please, George. So being an active member yourself on social media, how do you think that is important for an organization, at least? Being an individual within an organization.
So I think that's a very important point, Anna, is the social media is bigger than just the company itself. Obviously, the company is made up of a whole lot of individuals, and it's those individuals that need to drive the engagement, that need to drive that social element of the whole process. So I think for me, being a good social media citizen is not restricting yourself to one or two platforms. I think it's very important to use multiple social media platforms as much as possible, be active on all of them. No, I've learned from our marketing team which platforms to use for which purposes. So there's certain platforms that you can use to promote products. There's some that are better to sort of use visual graphics. There's some that are great for your social personal life, and others that you sort of keep as a corporate focus. So I think it's important to know and differentiate that. I think it's important to put in time and effort. So that means going and following people, following the people that might be interested in your company, that you might be interested in recruiting one day, unfollowing people that don't follow you back. I think it's very important as well. Your followers are a reflection of you. So you don't necessarily have to accept all the follow requests that you get. I sort of block some people, and I'm a bit of a nerd. I do report people that I think are sort of promoting sort of unscrupulous services on LinkedIn and that type of thing. So I'm not sure what LinkedIn do with those people, but that's between them and LinkedIn to do. I think something that we do a lot during our induction process is that we encourage our new joiners to engage with our company as well. So we encourage them to follow us. We encourage them to use multiple platforms as well. We do explain to them a little bit around the sort of legal aspects of what they can and cannot post, not using our logos for their blogs and that type of thing. So you need to be quite cautious of branding and that. Yep. And then just sort of in closing, I think something very important that sort of generations might battle with is something I called not being creepy. Mm-hmm. And what I mean being creepy is, and this is a sort of, I had an experience where I didn't recruit, I interviewed a lady. And she came in and she gave me a good firm handshake, made good eye contact, so everything seemed fine. We sat down and she looked at me and she said, "I feel like I know you, George." And that sort of immediately made me feel a bit uncomfortable. So then she spent about 2 minutes giving me a critical evaluation of my thesis that I'd published online. She then told me what Facebook friends we shared. And then she told me for the last 2 jobs that I'd had what mutual acquaintances we'd worked with before. So the first 20 minutes was her basically showing me how much research she'd done on social media. And at that stage, she totally creeped me out. So I think it is important to maybe do a bit of background. You're welcome to Google people, look at their profiles, but it doesn't mean you have to disclose it. In the interview, it's like somebody going and checking out the company website and sort of quoting your vision and mission and that type of thing. I mean, it is a lovely thing to do. It's good to be prepared and know what the company's share price is, but I think it's just something that you can put in the back of your mind. It doesn't mean that you have to prove yourself in the interview either. So just that creepiness element we need to watch out for.
Good. So Paul, now the CEO of Thales, is an influencer on LinkedIn. So how important is that, to be very frank, like for Thales as a company, and how has it helped so far, if it did?
Yeah. First thing I think advice to everybody is don't look at George's profile on LinkedIn. He's going to get scared, so please don't do that. But yeah, honestly, getting our CEO, Patrice Kane, appointed as a LinkedIn influencer, it made things so much easier. You know, it really, really did. And, you know, thank you to our LinkedIn account team for your support there. First thing I think was to say about that is, you know, our current CEO, this was quite natural for him. You know, he was one of the people that actually had a LinkedIn profile before he was appointed as the CEO. So we didn't have to cajole him and persuade him to get this profile made. But it just makes everything that much easier. And I think particularly from the environment that we came from, you know, being a defense and security company, in our DNA, there was a little bit of something that said, shh, don't say too much about us and what we do. We don't want to get in trouble for doing that. We need to keep low profile. So I think then having Patrice Kane, our CEO, as a LinkedIn influencer, it suddenly said to everybody, this is a good thing to do. And always my reference to anybody who says, oh, well, should we be publishing things on social media is, well, if our CEO is writing a great article about electric planes, that probably is permission enough for me to do something. So that's been very, very powerful. And I think the other thing that it's allowed us to do is actually allowed people to say, look, be authentic again. You know, Patrice's passion is around the future of technology, so he talks about things like sustainable technology. He talks about things like electric planes on there and the real cool stuff in the future. And this, again, has persuaded our own talent teams, our own comms teams, to actually begin to share things about them, share things that they have passions for, begin publishing articles. So it's been very, very effective. And I think, again, the other thing I'd say on that is I think Patrice recognizes, so LinkedIn isn't just for finding great talent, although we do that, we do a lot of that. Really, if you think about it, the lines really blur. So someone who we might be looking for as a candidate today is obviously interested in our space, our technology, so could end up being a customer tomorrow. They could be an investor as well in the future. So we need to talk to all those persona through what we're doing in LinkedIn, and through what Patrice does as our CEO. That makes it very easy to do that.
I highly recommend, actually, I can't agree more on what you've mentioned, and I highly recommend that all of us actually are pushing our senior leadership team members to be on LinkedIn and on social networks, generally speaking. Just leading by example, I believe, is one of the most important things. So one last group questions, guys, before we leave it to the floor. So how important do you think having both human resources, marketing communications is good and for the better of the company in terms of like representation on social media networks?
So, I mean, if I just answer from my perspective, I think it's extremely important, and it's that partnership that's really helped us move forward in the social media space. I think, from my perspective, it's quite naive to think that the employer brand can just be held centrally by HR, and you just enjoy so much more success if you can negotiate a really good way of working with your marketing and comms teams. And it is a struggle and it's a challenge to get there, but actually once you do nail it, it's so good. You can really reap some great benefits from it. I mean, I think I wanted to illustrate my point by thinking about an example. And if you think about a new project that BP might be working on, and we disclose this through a press statement, you're going to hear about the facts and figures about what we're going to do there. You're going to hear about what that's going to mean for current employees, but you're also going to hear about what opportunities that brings to the locals, to people in terms of new jobs. So actually, that's something that the press office and maybe the comms team may get involved with, but there is an element of talent acquisition in there and our employer brand when we talk about that. So, you know, how do you decide who owns that? And I think a really good point to illustrate that is a video I'd like to share if we've got time to do so.
Play the video, guys.
If you compare Oman with Dubai and Abu Dhabi, Qatar, it's totally different because the landscape of Oman is mountains. I used to drive my father to many places, to our village, to Dubai, and back again here to Oman. Most of the interior villages were no tarmac roads. The main thing I took from my father is safety. My family knew that our father is a safety man. It is in my blood. I taught them how to drive the vehicles, and thanks God, no one's had got an accident till today.
In 2011, here in Oman, every 8 hours, a life was lost to a road accident.
We have a big challenge to make sure people are driving safe. It's a culture, I can say. It's a habit of people. The challenge we face is the increasing of companies working with us to build a new Kazan project. And we're expecting to have over 10,000 people in the field. You just imagine how many vehicles will be there.
We start by auditing everything from vehicles to drivers to contractors to the buses. We create a rating system for drivers and test them. Once we satisfy, each driver were given a blue key.
The blue key will be in your name with your all contacts. So if you do any events, overspeeding, harsh braking, it will come on your name. Events previous years was 3,000 plus. We minimized to 0 now. I've tried my best to be friend of all the drivers in BP. All over the places they call me Ami, means uncle. I treat them as my family and I train them as my family. we made it. So I'm proud of that. Very, very proud.
So just to illustrate the point, if I told you that our employer brand pillars are about committed today and tomorrow, good people to work with and doing the right thing, I think that video illustrates that really, really well. However, that video was created by the comms team and the local team there. So it's just a good example about content that actually can come from your communications teams, from your marketing teams, your brand teams, that actually support your employer brand too. And only in partnership will you discover these great pieces of content that you can also share and reap the benefits from too.